rise over the last 10 years and is now reaching 80 million. To make matters even worse, the COVID-19 pandemic has sparked a crisis of global magnitude, and infodemic, a word coined by the WHO, has become a buzzword. These culminating crises have further aggravated the refugee situation. In 2020, more than ever, reliable, unbiased information can save lives.
Hello and welcome to day 9 of the DW Academy's first virtual conference. Yes, we have been doing this for the last 2 weeks now, and our theme has been and still is communication, engagement, and accountability in crises. My name is Wenji Komawara.
And I am, once again, Eddie Micah Jr. We are your moderators. Now, we've come so far, but the conference is almost coming to an end. Now, yesterday we talked to a group of researchers and media experts who were discussing how to improve messaging in a refugee context.
That's right, Eddie. And today we will have a series of presentations and videos from 4 organizations, namely UNICEF, UPSA, and Radio NAF, and the BBC Media Action. They will present their projects around the topic peaceful coexistence and accountability in Cox's Bazar, which is the world's largest refugee camp.
Yes, that's right, Wanjiku. Now, I'm sure everyone here is looking forward to that discussion. I definitely am. You will also have the chance to pose your questions to the experts right after. All you have to do is go to the Q&A section of today's discussion and type in your question. Now, if at the end of the day you feel like you're not really answered, the app is there for you to keep probing until you get the answers.
That's right. And now let's get started with our program. Our first presenter is Shihab Jishan Anik, who is a project manager for UPSA, a project supported by DW Academy.
Now, Shihab will take us right in the middle of Cox's Bazar and tell us about Palonga Hota. That's a radio show which is producing news and entertainment for the camp. Shihab, if you can hear me, take it away.
Welcome to Falongor Hota. In English, Voice of Palong.
Falonger Hota.
This is our team of reporters from both communities, Rohingya and Bangladeshi. We are the only who are producing this magazine by a group of male-female youths from Rohingya and host community to tell their own stories for them and also for the world. This platform ensures their freedom of expression, the right that Rohingyas are denied for generations. It is a joint collaboration of IPSA, Radio NAF and DW Academy. The show began in early 2018 and continuing till now and producing over 129 episodes without a break. Contents they produce for the show comes from their everyday life, what they experience, what they have seen in their neighborhood, which actually are stories of their own, stories of their lifestyles. They also think of contents of even commonness of both communities also get preference, such as people from both communities chew betel leaf, which is a very popular habit of people of this region. In makeover of young ladies also have common practices here in their dress codes, sports, food and so on. After doing necessary research, Voice of Palong reporters are now in the field for recording. Our reporters also covered solution-focused content due to inspire our listeners, community members to find a logical solution of their problems. Let us meet with Mr. Abul Hussain, who is a tom-tom mechanic, who himself is a disabled person, works day long to earn with dignity and contribute his family of 3 members. And he does not want to live only on relief. Nunnahar cultivates vegetables in her front yard to meet their everyday vegetables need. But Khadija Begum does not have empty space in front of her tent. But she also grows vegetable in her vertical garden. Our reporters brings in such stories using different radio formats like Vox Pop, interview, realistic drama, puthi, reporter talk, etc.
Funan bai bainera funan de mon Korunatun basar hota gori de bornon Korunare hota funi dorai nozayun Dorer kisu nai jodi tahun shoseton.
The show has entertainment contents, songs in local dialect, drama, etc. And apart from them, it also has contents to educate women on sensitive issues, such as family planning, in a very creative way by interviewing two mothers, one who has only 2 kids and another mother of 5 kids, with a common question: how do you manage raising your kids and maintaining your family life? Voice of Palong gives them a space for different life-saving information too. Apart from telling their own stories, the show also produces contents to aware community on various issues, such as cyclone preparedness, coronavirus, immunization, etc. in cooperation with different national and international organizations, such as UNICEF C4D in Cox's Bazar. Why it is a pride for all of us who are involved with this journey anyway. Voice of Palong is not only a simple radio platform for them to tell their stories, but became a philosophical platform where they can learn creativity, ethics, social norms, and sympathy, importance of relationship, peace, and best practices. It has become a best example of peaceful coexistence of Rohingya and Bangladeshi host community together. Because our mixed team of reporters who have been working together for nearly 2.5 years, shoulder to shoulder, producing their own contents without a single hitch between them. Falongar Hota hopes to continue its endless journey of working with underprivileged community, youths, and supporting them to be a good human being in future. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Shihab, for that. There's a lot actually from that video that I have taken, including that the voice of Palong sensitizes, educates, and entertains the people for whom it is made for. Eddie?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, there's a lot that communities can do when they come together. I'm beginning to sound like a broken record when it comes to that, but I just think that it's very important that locals in their communities are hands-on for such projects for their own people. You know, I always vouch for that instead of, too much of external influence. So it's great to see that a lot of them are involved. But I guess we'll stay in Cox's Bazar and Jiku because there's still a lot happening over there. The next video will be presented by Mafia Mukta, that's Palonga Hotel's editorial manager. Now she will show us how the program is empowering especially girls and women.
How Palong Hota impacts on women empowerment in both Rohingya and Bangladeshi host communities, and how they are significantly portrayed in Palong Hota to make it more meaningful and beautiful. We will now look into it.
Falongar Hota Ara begin zainte sai.
Palong Hota believes women should be empowered not only uphold their dignity in their family and society, but also to educate them so they are able to educate that generation of the future. That is why the program is committed to stand by all voices women to contribute to society.
It brings in stories of those who are in need of finding solution of their problems.
Let us listen to a widow Kadorbanu. She runs a grocery shop now. After her husband's demise, financial crisis in family pushed her to think of a solution. She did not sit back idle at home crying, but to be a support for her family by opening a grocery shop in her village. That is not very common for a women in Rohingya community and also in this region.
মানুষ কইতে গেলে কষ্টও করা ফুরিব দুঃখও করা ফুরিব সুখও করা ফুরিব
Voice of Palong cover positive encouraging stories of women from the region due to giving confidence other women. Because women plays a vital role in family to take care of children and elderly family members, which also have an impact in the society.
Since Palong Hota illustrates women who came across their barriers and put footmark in their areas of work. And I now like to tell you the story of a local female journalist. Ismotara Ishu is the only female journalist working based in Cox's Bazar town. While talking to Palong Hota, she described her struggle.
আরা তো দিন শেষে সাংবাদিক যারাই তারা তো প্রমাণ করা পড়ে দেয় যে অনেক সাংবাদিক পুরোটিকে এত বেশি প্রবলেম হইতো অনেকে বিশ্বাস করতে না চাইতো আজ হাজগানত মাঝে ফাইজুম হাজগান গরিব ফাইজুম আজ তাই নতুন নতুন সাংবাদিকতা গড়া শুরু করছি তখন ধরুন বহু জায়গাত মাঝে মাইফা বলি করে আরে বহুত প্রোগ্রামত মাঝে আয় নড়াহিত
She thinks after watching her working in journalism, many girls in Cox's Bazar inspire and wish to begin their career and ready to take the challenge as Ishu did. Palong Hota has brought in the story of Mrs. Hasina, who is one of the very few women camp leaders, along with many male leaders who called Majhi.
অনিকা মানে টুকেন টাকেনদের আরা বড় কথা খবর হইলে তারা মালি নলা যাইতে তো গুড়া ফুজের ফান বিয়া দি ফেলাইতো গুড়া ফুয়ান দলা বইতো তাম বড় কথা এরি তারা জানা দিতাম হয়তো ওই দি তারা বুঝ দিতে দিতে দূরত আসছি তারা কি করে মানে আরে অনেক সমস্যা তো না পড়ে আরে মানুষের ভালোই বাসে
The Voice of Palong do not only cover women who works outside home, but also tell stories of the silent talent who are contributing to their families, such as weaving fishing net, floral design in pillow cover, blanket, etc.
Here are 50 years old women who sell different type of pickles, which she made at her home with help of her daughter-in-law. How these two widows survive with this home-based business without having any other support.
One got to do you go, or gosh, live on Mori, you go, you got to bow, I say, one, I say, I never fall on over the bow in Angori valid dairy basic in your rate are valid dairy. Bow go there, I basic dairy.
This also encourages many women to find solution to their troubles. Not only for making money or personal mental health, here we find many women who also think about her community and contribute.
Model mothers. They are mothers, visits door to door, share their experiences with other mothers.
গুড়া ফাইন্দর দুথাবাদে ক্যাম্পেইন চলে দিবার মেসেজ দি মাছ ব্যবহারের ক্যাম্পেইন চলে দিবার মেসেজ দি ডায়রিয়া কলেরা জতুয়ান মানব ফাসার এরমের বিভিন্ন রকমের আরা মেসেজ কল দি তো হিয়ান আল্লাহ বলি আরা তো কি আয়ো নিজে যায়রা বলক মাদে হই পারি আর নিজের ঘরের পরিবারও সুস্থ রাখি ভাই যদি হিয়ান আল্লাহ বেশি খুশি হই তো বেশি খুশি লাগে
Stories we discussed until now is to inspire women so that they inspire others and create a signature path for others.
Over the past 2.5 years, Palong Hota became a platform to give a voice to voiceless women in both community, to understand their dignity and honoring their freedom of expression.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mafia, for sharing that with us. Thanks a lot for that insight. Now, the thing is, I've already seen some questions come through the app, which is a good thing. So we're going to be compiling all those questions. There will be time for a Q&A session, okay? So just note that and keep those questions coming through. Now, we know a lot about the content side of things at Palong Hota, but how does the technical side work, Wanjiku?
That's right. The next video will be answering that question. Rashidul Hassan, the program lead at Radio NAF, which is a partner of the show, will tell us about how narrowcasting and information and feedback centers work in the camp.
Honorable audience, greetings from Radio NAF and DW Academy to the virtual conference on displacement and dialogue. This is MD Rashidul Hassan welcoming you all to this presentation. You can see here the world largest refugee camp, one of the picture. Palong Hota, the voice of Palong. How the voice of Palong reaching the community? Actually, we are reaching our community through broadcasting, through narrowcasting, through online streaming. You can see the first picture. This is the on-airing of Radio NAF studio. Our studio situated in Teknaf, a sub-district of Cox's Bazar. You can listen us also online streaming on www.radionaf.com/onairlive. You know, Radio NAF has been operating more than hundreds of listeners club in 4 Rohingya camps and also in host community Ukhia, Teknaf, Pekua, Moheshkhali. Our listeners club has been covering in community household information and feedback centers. We have adolescent radio listener club. We have child-friendly spaces where the listener club is operating. We are operating the listener club also in women-friendly spaces and in community kitchen, then and different service centers. We are engaging government officials sometimes through our listener club, particularly the government official for the host communities. We have women listeners club. We operating the listener club in multipurpose center, in different learning center, and also in school and madrasas. To know more about the community concern, we go to the community through different programs. Community can raise their voice to the expert, particularly when we arrange the radio dialogues or different meeting there. The participant, the audience can directly question to the experts, and you can see here the experts are answering, experts are responding to the community. To ensure the reach out to more people, we disseminate our programs through CWC working group. You know, in Cox's Bazar, there is communications with communities working group. The working group has been disseminating our program from the starting. We are disseminating our program also in Sangjog platform. It's a government platform, and we are available also in Facebook, YouTube, and others. After broadcasting and narrowcasting the radio program, we also collect the feedback. What is the thinking of the communities about our program? We collect feedback from the our listeners, and you can see here the feedback form has 4 simple questions where our facilitator and co-facilitator, they ask the question to the audiences answers this, and we register it. After that, we compile it and then see what is the result actually. And our production team, you can see here our production team are taking interview from an Rohingya lady. This is how Palong Kota engaging the community for making the changes and establish the accountability. This is a short presentation from Radio NAF side. I'd like to thank all of you for your kind attention, and I'm grateful to the conference authority to give us the chance to describe our program. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Rashidul, for painting us the whole picture of how the production aspect helps the project achieve its goals. Next, we will listen and watch a presentation by Musumi Tripura, UNICEF's Communications for Development Officer.
That's right, Ranjiku. UNICEF in Cox's Bazar is also working together with Radio NAF and DW Akademie. Mushumi will share how they use radio programs to ensure accountability to the affected population, especially during the COVID-19 campaign communication. So, Mushumi, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Moshumi Tripura, working as a Communication for Development Officer with UNICEF in Cox's Bazar. Today, I'll discuss how UNICEF C4D uses radio programming to ensure community accountability to affected population in Rohingya response, especially during the COVID campaign. UNICEF C4D works for both host and Rohingya communities across the 7 sub-districts of Cox's Bazar. The intervention includes social mobilization and community engagement through 650 trained Rohingya community mobilization volunteers who visit house to house on regular basis for community sensitization and awareness raising across the health, nutrition, wash, child protection, and education related issues. We do advocacy with the community and religious leaders and also engage them in community sensitization activities as they are the key influencer to the community people. To ensure the community accountability to affected population, we have 18 established community information and feedback centers where community people visit to provide their complaint, feedback, and queries. We work for system strengthening in partnership with Bangladesh government through the local governance for children body in Cox's Bazar, and then we have radio programming. The programs are implemented in partnership with Bangladesh Betar, a state-owned radio station, and community radio now. In addition to that, we have technical partnership with JW Academy and John Hopkins Center for Communication Program. The radio programs are developed in different formats like live phone-in, magazine, radio dialogue, songs, public service announcement, coordinate session, short drama, jingles, puthi, etc. based on the need of the radio content and issues. The messages we use for radio programs are pre-tested, contextualized, and language appropriate. To ensure the accountability to affected population, the radio programming is designed to disseminate key life-saving messages, engaging community people through Radio Listeners Club and Radio Dialogue, collecting feedback through your report and social media platform. We disseminate the key messages through broadcasting and narrowcasting the radio programs. We engage both adolescent and adult group of people through our Radio Listeners Club. And also in the community radio dialogue programs, we engage both community and different service provider, including the administrative personnel, where community people get connected with the service provider and administrative personnel directly to provide their feedback, to ask their queries, and to share their concerns. One of our EU report on radio listeners survey shows that 94% radio listeners consider the COVID-19 messages on radio are very useful and they are interested to get more information through radio. We also utilize the social media platform to reach out to the wider group of people through radio programming. Here you can see one of our radio program Facebook page where one of our content on coronavirus awareness reached more than 300,000 people through the radio program Facebook content. Here are a few pictures of our radio dialogue program. One of our radio dialogue was successful to bring together the community people with refugee relief and repatriation commissioner, district commissioner, different civil service officials, NGO, INGO, UN personnel to discuss on the social cohesion and peace building. Here are a few pictures of our Radio Listeners Club facilitation session, where our community mobilization volunteers do not only broadcast or narrowcast their radio programs, they also do the demonstration of the messages with the support of different IC materials. One of the case study reveals that the adolescents receive more knowledge from the radio programs and it makes them safer. The girls become more confident after joining the Radio Listeners Club as they receive peer support from the initiatives. UNICEF C4D works in close collaboration with different sector and agencies. Here are a few list of campaigns where UNICEF C4D radio programming supported to conduct the campaign communication during the COVID-19. If you want to hear more information about this presentation and UNICEF C4D radio program in Rohingya response, please feel free to contact Mohammad Alamgir, C4D specialist, Moshumi Tripura, C4D officer, myself, and Yasmin Khan, C4D specialist, and email address of each person are given here. We are always available through email. Thank you all for your valuable time to listen to me patiently to know how UNICEF C4D radio programming works to ensure accountability to affected population, especially during COVID-19 campaign.
Now, that was a lovely smile to wrap up that presentation. So if you're watching, you know what I mean. But thanks a lot, Wushimi, for sharing that piece of information with us. And guys, just a gentle reminder, remember you are basically a part of this. Now, if you want to be asking questions, you want some answers to them, you should do that on the app. Just go to the Q&A part of the app, ask whatever question it is, whatever at all. And then when there's time, of course, the experts will respond to them. If there's no time during the 1 hour, you can still have a chance on the app to talk to them. Wanjiku?
So get right into it indeed, like AD says. Now we hear from a team from the BBC Media Action, which is the department that deals with media development. Now, the team is represented by Arif Al Mamoun, who is the head of research, Kadoka Hassanul Bana, lead training and liaison manager.
Yep, there's also Sally Goland, senior research manager, and Richard Lace, who is the head of programs. Now, let's sit back and watch the presentation, and we'll be right back after for the Q&A session.
Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you to the Deutsche Welle Academy for inviting us here to talk to you today. I am Khondokar Hassanul Banna from BBC Media Action, joined by my research colleagues Sally Goland, Arif Al Mamoun, Fuadur Rabbi, and Fariha Rahman. In this session, we are going to tell you about our project in the Rohingya response to improve communities' access to information. We will focus on how we have evaluated our work using a novel method, how this method strengthens the evidence of the evaluation, and how our learning can inform the overall humanitarian sector. Humanitarian agencies have a responsibility to support those affected by crisis with access to information. And information helps people to participate in decisions which affect them, and agencies to be accountable to the communities they aim to serve. Before we explore the evaluation research and its novel approach, let's watch a short film about what Common Service project looks like.
The Common Service for Community Engagement and Accountability provides advice, tools, and training to help humanitarian professionals in Cox's Bazar communicate with and listen to Rohingya refugees and host communities. We work together with over 50 different agencies and sectors to make sure that communities have the information they need in a language and format they understand, and that affected people's concerns and feedback are understood and acted on. We talk with people in every camp and across host communities to understand what they are worried about, what information they need, what language they prefer, and how they would like to communicate with aid providers. Our research helps humanitarians use terms that can be understood by everyone and communication channels that the community prefers. And we study community perceptions to help uncover how people are feeling about their day-to-day lives and what they think about the response.
Assalamu alaikum. Aif motareshu onaরে স্বাগত জানাইবে আনার বাহাদুরও রাজিয়ার পারবো।
We produce hundreds of different communication tools, which are used by many different agencies, increasing efficiency and making sure that communication is consistent, clear, respectful of people's language and culture. We work closely with the government and with technical experts to make sure that everyone has access to accurate information about topics like cyclone preparedness, vaccinations, and human trafficking. Our regular bulletins provide the humanitarian community with insights into what refugees and host communities are worried about, allowing agencies to plan their response in line with the community's views. With data from around a dozen different agencies, we analyze thousands of pieces of feedback each month to identify trends and help the response to better understand the situation on the ground. And our capacity strengthening support reaches thousands of humanitarian practitioners from the field to head office, making sure that they have the skill and knowledge they need to engage respectfully and be accountable to the people they're seeking to help. By working together and delivering specialist services across the whole response, the Common Service is able to react and adapt, helping the humanitarian community across Cox's Bazar.
Now, I'm inviting Arif and his team to start with research.
Research has always been at the heart of the Common Service project. Across the response, we have gathered and analyzed audience research to generate key insights into the needs and priorities to Rohingya and host community populations. These insights help humanitarian partners to make decisions and help us to design effective communication tools. As a core research activity, every year we have conducted evaluations in order to assess the impact of Common Service project against our key outcomes. Our annual evaluation always generates critical insights about humanitarian practitioners' view on the values of our work, how we can do things better, what is the impact of cooperation among media, communication, and humanitarian practitioners on practitioners' day-to-day work in communicating with communities. This year, we have used a new methodology. Our colleague Sally will explain about that.
As we've heard, the Common Service Initiative is all about supporting humanitarian practitioners to do their jobs better. It's been great to hear how humanitarian partners use and value the Common Service tools and products. This year, we wanted to trial a new evaluation approach, which would really test the strength of some of our evaluation evidence. We wanted to answer this question: is our work with humanitarian partners making a difference to the lives of the Rohingya community? We tried out a new methodology for us called process tracing. This would help us to really investigate the causal link between common service activities and outcomes on the ground. Process tracing focuses on individual stories of change and encourages the researcher to act like an investigative journalist to investigate these stories of change. Here are the steps we took. First, we interviewed practitioners from humanitarian agencies and asked them to tell us what changes, if any, they had observed as a result of the common service. We used these examples of impact to draw diagrams of the causal pathways starting with the common service activity and ending with the impact practitioners had talked about. We then came up with more questions for us to investigate stories of change further. We also came up with alternative hypotheses to make sure we weren't just taking what practitioners said at face value. We then collected evidence from lots of different sources. In some cases, this meant going back and interviewing the same practitioner or their colleague, or checking documents and emails to provide evidence. We also looked at large-scale community-level surveys carried out independently of our project and conducted interviews and focus groups with community outreach volunteers and community members. We weighed up the evidence at each stage of the causal pathway. Where we found evidence to support the story of change, we concluded the common service had causal impact. To add rigour to our methodology, we shared all the cases with an academic expert in process tracing who interrogated our conclusions. This will probably make a lot more sense if we look at a few examples. Arif, can you take us through some?
Yes, of course. In first case, we will look at about common service support in developing and training on communication materials to help communities prepare for cyclone season. The causal chain tested in this case was put forward by a humanitarian practitioner that the common service support provided to them led to volunteers being effectively trained. This training meant more helpful information was shared with the communities and community members took action in preparation for cyclone. Support included developing and training communication materials and a volunteer training handbook on cyclone preparation. The practitioner felt it would have been really difficult to develop the materials without the technical and coordination support of common service agencies. Fuad and Fariha, can you please take us to the activities we took to establish this causal chain in this particular scenario?
We checked the materials and training records with common service staff. The causal chain goes on to hypothesize that the communication training led to agency staff and volunteers communicating useful information to communities about how to prepare, and that consequently communities took action to prepare and strengthen their shelters accordingly. The practitioner said that both times there has been a cyclone risk. The people who received the cyclone preparedness program training raised the correct flags. He also said that a camp-wide survey found that 87% of camp people mentioned they have received the cyclone preparedness messages, of which 97% said they understood the messages. One of our researchers, Faria, can you tell us what happened when you went to the camps?
We checked this data and another data source, Ground Truth Solutions data, which systematically surveys around 800 people across 30 camps.
This showed a higher proportion of people felt they had the information they needed and felt adequately prepared for the monsoon season in November 2019 than in April 2019. So, this suggests communities' preparedness for cyclone was increasing. Moreover, our qualitative research with communities in the camps also provided evidence that communities are getting the information and finding it useful. So, in this case, we concluded that there was enough evidence to prove a causal link. The common service support and materials on cyclones helped NGO staff who then used this training and materials to communicate more effectively with communities. Communities then said that the information they received on cyclones was helpful and had prompted them to take action.
So that was an example where our causal chain did stand up to the scrutiny once we examined the evidence. Are there any examples where this wasn't the case?
Yes, the second example really highlights where using the process tracing methodology really paid off.
If we had taken an initial interview with a humanitarian practitioner at face value and not investigated further, we could have overestimated the impact of common service in this case. During the research, we have been said one of the sectors was alerted to the fact that communities were feeling unsafe in the camps through reading an issue of the What Matters. This hadn't been coming up in their own feedback mechanism. Fuad, can you please take us through again what steps we took?
We checked through the Hot Matters archives, and safety had come up as an overall concern raised by the communities in a number of issues, but especially issue 19, which was published in February 2019. The practitioner thought that this concern being raised in Hot Matters had led to a decision being made to conduct safety audits in all the camps. These audits would ultimately help site management agencies better understand and address community safety concerns. A follow-up interview was conducted with a colleague who had been directly involved in the decision-making process of safety audits. This follow-up interview revealed that although Hot Matters was one of the information sources highlighting that people felt unsafe in the camps, it was not the critical source of information that directly resulted in the decision to start conducting safety audits. What actually pushed them to make the decision was an increase in incidents of children being injured in the daily incident reports from the camps. So in this case, we concluded that the evidence does not support the hypothesis that What Matters provided unique information that led to a change in agency's practice on its own. However, it can support the claim that What Matters is often used as an additional data source to be triangulated with other data sources agencies are already using.
So in summary, I think process tracing helped us in 3 ways. It really helped us delve down by focusing on clear examples provided by practitioners who are using the service to understand how the activities have impacted on decision making and on their agency's activities. It made us keep interrogating and questioning what people are telling us, not to take what they say at face value, as they might be fan of common service, but to really explore what it has led to at the community level, who we really want to improve things for. And third, it was really useful as it provided causal evidence of impact, something we know across the research and evaluation world is hard to come by. Having this kind of robust causal data has helped us prove where the common service has had impact, but also has helped us to refine our theory of change. This is all about the process tracing as an evidence generating and validating method. Now, let's go to Banna to know what's next on common service.
Since we conducted the evaluation, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit, and therefore we have had to adjust all our activities in the following ways. Rapidly changed all our training and mentoring activities to online with a focus on COVID-19 awareness, increased liaison with colleagues from other agencies who regularly go to the field for critical operations only, and still continue producing communication materials meeting the increased demand of COVID-19 awareness and keeping the community inspired in these trying times. Here is an example of a communication product which has produced aiming to inspire Rohingya community.
ক্যাম্পত বহুত মানুষ আছে দে যারা ডল্লা বডল্লা হামল্লা হাবে জিতারা নিজের মুশকিল মুসিয়ত চলি বাদে আরেকজনের মুসিয়তত আগুয়াই আইয়ে হ্যান্ডিল্লা মানুষ গুণরের লই অনুষ্ঠান আর বাদও এই অনুষ্ঠানকার প্রতি পর্বত আর হিতারার একজনের লই অত্তর হইম হিতারার গরওয়ালিয়ত দা আড়াল্লা ফারাল্লা অকলর লই হতা হইম চলন তৈলে আর বাহাদুর অকলর বাহাদুরি গিন চাই শুরু করি আর বাহাদুর
We are now planning our next evaluation to understand how the common service activities have supported humanitarian organizations to communicate effectively with communities around COVID-19 and access to health services. To see more of our research work, including the evaluation we have discussed today, please visit the Songjog website, which hosts a variety of communication products, resources, and research. That's all from BBC Media Action today. Thank you all who have tuned in to this session and Deutsche Welle Academy for organizing the event. Hope this pandemic will be over soon and see you all in person.
Thanks so much for sharing how you adapted to the circumstances created by COVID-19, amongst other things in your activities. Thank you so much, BBC Media Action, for that presentation. Now, we are at the point where you get to ask your questions. And AD, we also have our presenters from YPSA and Radio Nav and UNICEF as well.
Yeah, for sure, Wanjiku. They are all standing by waiting for the questions. Now let's jump right into the first question. This is from Mordecai Odera. This is straight to YPSA. Has the community expressed interest in accessing information through other media, say text message or social media, or do women and men consume and prefer radio? This is to you. If you can hear me, representative from YPSA, that was your question.
Yes. Sorry, question again.
Okay, I'll take it again quickly. How has the community expressed interest in accessing information through other media like text message or social media? Or do women and men consume and prefer radio?
Yeah, the community can express their message by the radio, and men and women also express their message by radio, and our Palong team work for them, and they collect the message from them, and they on air it. We on air it in our Palong.
Okay. Anyone else can jump on. Otherwise, I'm sure Wanjiku can come up with the next question.
I can have a quick go. It's Richard here. I think that the gendered aspect is really important that the question has raised. And actually, I think one of the big challenges in Cox's Bazar has been that men and women consume media in a very different way. And women tend to be much less able to access information. So those face-to-face routes, which many agencies are working through, are really, really important, particularly for women. I think radio and audio in particular is very important. The Rohingya language is not a written language, and most people can't read. So using audio products like the show that we've heard about and other narrowcasts that have been going on have been a very, very important way to get information out. And so therefore, I think text is probably less important in that context, maybe because of low literacy, although maybe some of the more literate men would be interested in using it. And the same with social media. It's quite difficult for people to get an internet connection in the camps. And it's also difficult for people who don't have that exposure to technology or exposure to written language to be able to use that, although some do. But it is a complex environment. And so I think an understanding of that ecosystem has been a really important thing that the response as a whole has developed really nicely over the last few years.
Okay. Wanjiku?
Thank you so much, Richard, for jumping in. I do not want to shut any other person who would like to jump on that. Is there one before I go on to my next question?
I would also like to add a few more things. Hello? Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you.
We can hear you. If you can hear us, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I also echo Richard that here most of the Rohingya people are illiterate, and the text doesn't work properly the way it works for the host. As we mentioned in our presentation, that we develop radio programs for both host and Rohingya communities. So recently we did a radio listenership survey in Cox's Bazar of 7 districts. Media as well, like in the Facebook platform, YouTube, and besides beside that, we also looked at the ratio of the men and women in radio listeners. So we found that 62% are men, and the rest of the listeners are women in our radio listenership survey. So we conducted the survey with 1,000 people from 7 districts of Cox's Bazar Upazelas. It is a sub-district, and the report is supposed to be published in within few weeks. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for adding on to that. Like I said, I feel like this part of the conversation, that particular question actually opened us to a bit more diversified aspect of looking at the situation. Now moving on to the next question, which is directly to the BBC. Would process tracing be possible with organizations without proper research capacity, and how long does the process take to reach conclusions?
Thank you. Hi, this is Arif from BBC Media Action. I think process tracing can be implemented with any organizations, as we were trying to mention that process tracing is more like, thinking yourself as an investigative journalist and ask the questions more and more questions and really delve down into the fact. Like, do not take anything for granted. Do not, it says there is area where you should be investigating more. Well, this is the case. For example, what we try to establish here is that if somebody or if your respondents in a research term, if your respondents say something, just don't take that answer as for granted. Verify it, validate it with other sources, and then collect those evidence. If somebody says, yes, we did something because we learned from that one, you should ask for the evidence. Like, okay, where did you did it? How did you did it? And do you have any kind of evidence that support your claim? So that is basically the main or in a broad brush that okay, this is the process tracing, and it depends on how complex your project is, how complex your main idea or your product is that you want to investigate. And if it is a very complex, then you might have to go so many different people, so many different sources, because you really want to be sure. Since process tracing's main point is that it establishes the causal link, and causal link is always difficult to establish, and particularly for communication is more and more difficult. So it takes a bit of time. If you have like single product, then it takes less time. If you have so many products, it will take more time. Sally, do you want to add anything else with that?
I would just build on Arif's comment and say, obviously, we are quite lucky. We have quite a large research capacity in Bangladesh, and we were very keen with this piece of work, not only to look at the impact of our specific project, but to provide evidence that was really going to help the wider humanitarian sector to understand what's the role of media and communication initiatives in humanitarian settings and in supporting communities. So that's why we did it on quite a large scale, and we worked with an external academic consultant to help us. But I would completely agree with Arif that the principles of process tracing can be applied to any project or anyone, even if they're working in a small way. It's about collecting additional evidence. It's about, probing very correctly, and it's about, collecting other different types of documentation that can support your case.
Okay. Well delivered. Now, there's another question here from, I would say, our friend Muthi, because Muthi, I think every single day of this virtual conference has been participating and asking questions. So it's really nice to always have Mukta in there. And the question is, how do local governments usually react to efforts like those by BBC Media Action or by Radio NAF or UPSA or UNICEF? How do local governments usually react to your efforts?
Shall I jump in quickly on to start that off, and then maybe Banner would say something from our side? I put a been chatting away with Muti on the platform, and actually generally in Bangladesh we found the government to be very supportive and engaged with the work that we've been doing. And I think part of that is because of the work that's happened over the years, both from us but also from agencies like UNICEF, where we've got long-standing relationships with the central government departments dealing with disaster management, and they've really understood the power that community engagement and accountability can bring and the value it can add to a response. And I think that the response in Cox's has really benefited from the groundwork that's been done over the last 5, 6, 7 years with the government to help them, you know, build their own capacity in that area, but also bring them to the understanding that information, community engagement really is an important part of the humanitarian response. And I think generally we see that in Cox's as well, where we and others have been working with government. We've been training government personnel to help them in the camps. And generally, there's a little bit of nervousness sometimes when we turn up with a video camera, but most of the time, I think government is generally very accepting of this type of work and sees the value of it. Bano, would you agree? You're in the thick of it more than I am now.
Yeah, I think like completely agreed with you. I just want to share one example where we actually were producing an audio podcast on the immunization issue, and like we wanted to go and check with government about their standing and their activities. So Triple RC, who is the head of like government official in Cox's Bazar for Rohingya response, he himself actually agreed to like give that interview, and like we recorded him, and like he was actually talking about the issues that communities need to know for that like particular instance. So from that aspect, government is really supportive, and they support the they understand the fact that like communication can help communities similar to the other aids and other relief efforts. So so that understanding is here with the RRC office, with the refugee office, and the local level camp management government officials as well. So I would say like there is an environment where we can work as a communication agency free and fair, as long as we know and they know that we are the work we are doing is actually for the community, for the betterment of the community. Yeah.
This is Moshumi again from UNICEF. As I mentioned in my presentation that UNICEF works in close collaboration and also in partnership with Bangladesh government. So we have partnership with state-owned radio Bangladesh Bazar, and also we have a program with the local governance body of Bangladesh government. So whenever we do any program, it is in aligned with the government objective, and also it is aligned with the government support. Beside that, we have community engagement officers and also community engagement personnel who work with the local government people in Cox's Bazar. So basically, we have set up for both in camp and host. For camp, we have Rohingya community volunteers who work in support of CIC, the camp in charge of the camps, and also we have the community mobilization volunteer under the local governance system like Union Porishad and also Pujala Porishad. So we also have another platform that we call the community dialogue, where we bring the local government people and different service provider in every episode. And one of the achievement was in February, we brought the RC and also the district commissioner in addition to different government officials in that program, where the community people engaged with them. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, this is Shihab from YPSA.
I will let, if not to cut you at all, Mafia has been raising her hand to contribute, so maybe I'll go straight to Mafia for this one. Mafia, over to you.
Yeah, okay. So what Richard, Vanna and Moshumi actually mentioned that all those things actually happening here. The government also now understanding the communication power and what is actually important for the camp and also community. For the both community, communication is the most important part to pass their message also. So the you also see that on when the cyclone period time was there, and also in the COVID-19 situation. That time, the video or audio content of the communicating people who are for communication materials. So they are doing a very good job. But we listen from the government officials of the authorities from the Cox's Bazar, from the host community, and also from the camp, KPLRC, and also the district commissioner office. If I say one example, that one government official actually mentioned that in the COVID-19 situation, when movement is restricted and also the physical distancing and social gathering are restricted, that time the radio contents actually help them in a very much good way to pass their messages. I mean, the COVID-19 situation messages. So that time they actually realize that what power is in the communication materials. If I say the audio content, the miking doing by the different international and national organizations, also in the community radio, and also if I mention that the Bangladesh government now, know the community radio, if I say, especially the community radio impact is more in the areas where community people, because they actually prepare the contents for their community. So it's also easy to understand their voices in their dialect, which is very much helpful for the camp and the host community people. So I think it's now the Bangladesh government actually understanding this, how much important communication is for this context in Rohingya and Bangladeshi situation.
Okay, Wanjiku?
Yes, thank you so much for everyone that has contributed to that question. As we come to the end, we do have one other question from Mainul Khan, who is asking something that I find very, very relevant. How can radio help women who are victims of domestic violence improve their situation? I mean, we do know that COVID-19 aggravated the situation as we know it. And I would love to hear from you. Feel free to take it, but we can only have maybe 2 people because of time. But let us know how radio can help women who are victims of domestic violence.
Hello. Can I go first on that? Thank you. Basically, the radio programs we do is focusing on the woman and child. So we do messages for the awareness and sensitization of the women, engaging the men and boys. So whenever the radio programs are broadcasted, both men and women listen to it and they are sensitized. Apart that, we have our volunteers who engage the community to sensitize them, to engage them for the change. And we have the women and also adolescent girls and boys to work for their peer support group and for their community to disseminate or to engage the people. And also we influence the influencer, we engage the influencer people like the religious leader in our radio program, and just the messages are disseminated in the way of religious context and also their local social context. Apart that, we also bring the resource persons that they can disseminate the messages how women can get support from the local administrative personnel and also from the government side. And beside that, we always distribute the numbers of the different call center where they can get support to get domestic violence related services. Thank you.
Okay, one more very brief one.
So I think we can
share
share some experience. Yeah, Eddie.
Yeah, sure. Mafia, quick one from you, and then we wrap up.
Yeah, sure. So through our radio show, if I mention that we try to motivate actually the women's and men's from the both community to stop or to handle this kind of violence against women. So in our show, we try to say brings in those stories who already motivated themselves and they overcome from this kind of violences. So when we present a story from their community that how they handle their surrounding surrounding disturbance or violence things. So we tried to show those kind of stories to motivate other women that they can find some solution from those stories. And also, if I add something that how the leaders who already contributing to their community, how they actually helped the other women to face those kind of situations. Then the women leaders, we also brought those voices through our radio show to give some solution by themselves. So then others can find the solution in a very easy way. But if some experts or someone else talking about their solution, maybe they are not that much willing to take it. But when there are people from their community talking about themselves and this kind of issues, then they maybe take it very easy way. So we already have those kind of issues in our shows and try to bring those solution oriented topics and people who give themselves as a model to prevent domestic violence.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mafia. Thank you very much, all of you guys that have been available to answer questions. To all of you who also had questions and could not have that chance, all you have to do is go to the app. The presenters are still available. You can get interactive anytime because that's what they are here for, to share their expertise with you. So thanks, guys, again for your participation. It's been another great day, Wanjiku. Now, let's talk about the final day of our conference.
Well, we'll be ending on a very high note by taking a trip around the world, from Jordan to Ecuador and Mexico. 3 community initiatives in partnership with the World Association for Christian Communication, WACC. They will explain to us how they are enabling migrants to be seen and heard in the host communities.
So here's the deal. We'll be crossing the finish line of this virtual conference tomorrow, so you don't want to miss the last day, okay? Now, if you just joined us today, don't worry, because you can watch all of the sessions either on our conference app or directly on DW Academy's YouTube channel. You should definitely go check it out. I am Eddie Micah Jr.
And I am Wanjiko Mwaura. Goodbye.